करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
चतुर्वदनो ब्रह्मा विभाहुरपरो हरिः अभाललोचन शम्भुः भगवान् पादनारायणः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। Day after tomorrow on Tuesday falls the Guru Poornima for this year. Guru Poornima is celebrated as Vedvyasa Jayanti. On this auspicious occasion, we invoke the grace and blessings of the entire Guru Parampara, the unbroken chain or lineage of Master, and the Master-disciple Parampara or the lineage continues from time immemorial. Without the grace of the Gurus, our sustenance in this world as human beings itself is not possible. We would have just existed as any other creature, but it is because of their grace that we continue in our quest towards perfection. As Hindus, when we are born, we are said to be born with 5 rinas. Rinas means debt. A debt towards the gods, which is Devarana, who grace us with all the power like the sun and rain and wind and all elements that are required for our living. A rina towards our ancestors, which is called as Pitru Rina, because they are the cause and we are the effect, so we owe debt or gratitude towards them. Then we have the rina towards the fellow human beings. As a society, we are mutually helping each other and each one of us owe a debt to the other, irrespective of whatever work the other does that is required for everybody else in the society. You have the rina towards then the elements, which includes the animals, birds, nature, everything. That's why we give food to the crow or the dog, we feed, insects we feed, each and everything is part of it. And the important of all of it is this Rishi Rina. Rishi Rina is the debt towards the Rishis or the Gurus who have given this knowledge. So it is just not on Vedvyasa Jayanti that we remember, it is a remembrance throughout the year, and for which this particular day is taken as the most auspicious occasion because the stalwart in the Guru Parampara is Vedvyasa. And with his blessings we enter into the subject today, which is also connected with Vedvyasa, which is the magnum opus of the great epic Mahabharata. The ultimate authority of the philosophy in Sanatana Dharma is the Vedas. The Vedas are said to be the uncreated knowledge. They are also called as the Shruti. Shruti means that knowledge which is heard, and it is passed on from generation to generation through the word of mouth from the master to the disciple. So in that way they also hear it, and that's why it's called as Shruti. Shruti, you can say, is the collection of the entire laws that govern the human life. To directly approach the Shruti and understand them is rather very difficult. Shruti form the basis of all the Shastras, but to understand them is very difficult. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Tasmat Shastram Pramanante Karya Karya Vyavasthitam. If you want to know what is to be done or what is not to be done, what is the final authority, it is the Shruti, it is the Vedas. But you cannot approach them directly. And the style of the Shruti is that it gives direct, clear-cut instructions. That's about all. Certain set of do's and don'ts are also given like that. You have to simply follow it. We may not be able to understand it. And it is very straightforward and it comes down very heavily upon you. So, in the traditional way it is said as it is equivalent to Prabhu Samhita. Prabhu Samhita is how a Prabhu or a master is telling the instruction to the servant. He has to give just the instructions and he has to follow, that's all it is. That is the style of the Vedas. At the next level is the Smritis. Smritis are, you can say, if the Vedas are the law, then the interpretation of the law is the Smritis. According to the time, according to the place and geographical location, and according to the set of people, the great rishis apply the law of Shruti in that particular time. So we have got the great Manu Smriti and Yajnavalkya Smriti and various other Smritis from time to time. These are in line with the Vedas only, but they are applicable to that particular people at that particular point of time. The tone of Smriti is much more easier for us to relate to. The tone of the Smriti is equivalent of that of a friend telling another friend. If the Vedas are compared to master telling the servant, the tone of the Smritis is said to be as a friend tells the other friend, which is much more explanatory, which is much more you can say a little more compassionate, and he will tell but what is right for you. A good friend will say what is right for you, not which is pleasing for you alone, but he will put it a little more mildly. That's about all. But Smritis are also very difficult to comprehend by the style that they are written and the time in which they are written also. In fact, what governs the human laws of the present day age also must be a form of a Smriti. Rather, what governs us today is the Indian constitution. It must have been actually a Smriti, which is to be formulated by a set of people who are well versed in the law of the land, which is Shruti. It is on those lines it should have been written. Unfortunately, it is not. And that is why we don't seem to follow whatever is the inherent culture of the people, which is still alive with most people. We don't find it a resonance with the law. That is because of this dichotomy only. So Smriti forms the basic law of the time. And Smriti is also not easily understood by majority of people, and that is why at the next level we have the Purana and the Itihasa. Purana and Itihasa are not the same, but you can combine them together and talk about it here. It is said that if Vedas are like master telling a servant and Smritis are like a friend telling a friend, this Purana and Itihasa is like Kanta Samhita. So Prabhu Samhita, Sudrit Samhita and Kanta Samhita. Kanta means wife. As a wife tells the husband, does the Itihasa and Purana give out the same knowledge to us. A wife will not hurt the ego of the husband, but at the same time she will convey what has to be conveyed in a very nice way. Just as they say, how you press the needle against a banana, how smoothly it goes, it will go. Ultimately the message will be conveyed, and that is what is important. When such type of easy approach is there, it is applicable for all. So when Itihasa and Purana is related, even a child can relate to it. Any commoner can relate to it. A wise person can relate to it. It is in the story form that everybody likes also. So we just heard this Upanishad chanting before the start of the session. The last of the Upanishad, this Mundaka Upanishad, it forms part of the Atharva Veda, where the famous statement comes as Satyameva Jayate. It is there in our logo, Indian logo also there. It is there in that 4 lines, it is written there. Satyameva Jayate. Satyameva Jayate means truth alone triumphs. This is a Vedic statement and it is 100% true. It is applicable both at the absolute level and at the relative level also. We may not be able to understand the true import of it now or from our limited experience, but what is correct is Satyameva Jayate. Truth alone triumphs. But when we say this statement, it goes through one ear and comes out of the other ear. We are not able to sort of understand or retain it. But when we have this Purana of Harishchandra, how he went through so much of trouble throughout his life. He was separated from his wife, his kingdom was gone, his son was dead, various tragedies that he went through. In and through he maintained only one philosophy in life, that he will never deviate from the path of truth. And ultimately what it resulted in is that it was proven, because it was a debate between Vasishtha and Vishwamitra in the heavens as to how long can a man hold when his elasticity limit is stretched. Can he hold on to the truth till the very end? This was the debate. And Vasishtha said it is possible. So then they tested it out on Harishchandra, and till the end he did not compromise. Once you see this in the form of a drama, or once we see this in the form of a movie, or stories from our grandmothers also, this thought goes deep into our system. At one level, we see a great intellectual honesty from Mahatma Gandhi, and it is attributed that he saw the drama of Harishchandra very young in his life. So that has a very deep impact which carried throughout his life also. So Itihasa and Purana are in same line with the Smriti and Shruti, but their tone is much more in our level, so that all the commoners can relate to it. And that, if you see, is the culture of this country. How it has been maintained. It is not that Sanatana Dharma is maintained with certain elites. In fact, from time to time, it is the so-called elite people who deviate away from it. But who has kept it rooted in its complete, in the root of this Bharata, in this Indian culture? It is the commoners across all regions in India, across all languages, across all sets of people. And how is it maintained? It is maintained through this Puranas. It is maintained through the Itihasas only. So therefore, Itihasas form a very integral part of our lives. It has, and particularly Ramayana and Mahabharata, though there are other epics also in India, these two are sort of soul of India. It is there permeating all parts of India. It has connection with all parts of India. You will find that each and every village you go within a radius of 5-6 kilometers, there will be some association with either Rama came here, or Ravana installed a linga here, or Hanuman came through this, or there will be some connection. And there is known as what is known as a Sthala Purana. So in that particular Sthala, there will be a Purana which is related to that. Similarly, Mahabharata, you will find that the brothers of Yudhishthira, Pandavas, they have conquered various territories. Each and every territory that is given, it corresponds to each and every geographical location associated with all of us. So it has become part and parcel of our life. No art form, no dance form, painting, sculpture, drama, music is complete without bringing in the life of Lord Krishna, Rama, or any of the episodes of Mahabharata. It is just not possible. Recently I was in Bangalore. There was a conference on Mahabharata, and various people, stalwarts from various backgrounds, they were giving each and every aspect of paper they presented on, let us say, the karma theory in Mahabharata, or the significance of Shanti Parva in Mahabharata. What are the films that are made with basis Mahabharata? And he counted up to nearly 2000 odd films all over the world that are made based on Mahabharata, and they continue to make also. It really inspires from time to time. And these are, of course, if you take directly that are related to the story in Mahabharata, that itself runs to thousands, and others are inspired by Mahabharata. So, Mahabharata, Ramayana, they continue to be part and parcel of our life. And Ramayana and Mahabharata are directly as good as the Vedas only. See, Vedas have two parts. First part they call the Veda, and the last part they call it as the Vedanta, Upanishads. Vedas talk about the Karma Kanda, which talks about how you must conduct your life in the world. You can say it teaches us dharma, it teaches us karma, so that you are entering the world and doing the experiments in the world properly. Once your mind matures and you are seeking what is beyond the world, then the Upanishad comes and helps you there. So it explains what is Brahma. So it explains what is dharma and it explains what is Brahman. This is the essence of all the philosophy. Now exactly the same way, all these epics also, Ramayana and Mahabharata, they also teach us how we must conduct ourselves in the world, and they also have the philosophical content also. It is there in essence, it is also there given in certain portions. Like in Ramayana, Lord Rama is the Guru and Bharata comes to him in Chitrakuta, and there the conversation between them is extremely Vedantic in nature. Later what Hanuman and he gives us the knowledge to Tara when she is in a depressed mode, that is exactly like Bhagavad Gita it comes. So the philosophical content is also there, but in essence if you see the whole epic, that itself is giving the path towards it. So these are scriptures which are telling us not just to get out of the world into the forest and just practice meditation, renunciation and meditation, but how to practice renunciation while living in the society. The great heroes have shown how to do it. So therefore, Ramayana and Mahabharata are complete epics by themselves. Now, what is the, that's what we studied. What is the authority? Authority of Mahabharata is as good as the scriptures there. Then the next we will see what is the approach to studying these epics. Many people, most of us here definitely believe in Ramayana and Mahabharata. That is part of our belief system. There are some set of people who literally believe in what has happened and they accept it as it is. They may not seek proof, they may not want it also. It's just that they are okay with it. They are completely, perfectly okay with it. There are some set of people who are absolutely atheist in this regard. They don't accept it at all. Interestingly, they also don't have any proof. They may outwardly say something about science and other thing, but they have not neither gone deep into science nor gone deep into it, so they superficially talk about it, but they just cannot be convinced. Bhagavan Rajneesh, Osho, he makes a very beautiful statement. He says, reason and logic can convince a person who is already convinced. Reason and logic can convince only a person who is already convinced. If you are on that side, then reason and logic will appeal to you. But if you have taken a stance that I will not believe, any amount of reason and logic cannot. So there is no point having a conversation with a person who is not on any terms of any debate or argument or even discussion. No point talking to them. In fact, that is why throughout Gita and throughout various Vedantic texts it is given that do not give this knowledge to anybody and everybody. One who approaches you with Shraddha, approaches you means approaches the subject with Shraddha, to him you give. That is why you will find that the masters are giving various tests to the students, and only if they are qualified enough, only if they are adhikaris will they give. So this is not a way to definitely convince that those who do not want to get convinced. But there may be some people who may have genuine doubts, and they may get swayed by the arguments of the others. So in between the position of complete belief and complete disbelief, there is a middle position we can take as what is known as inference. Inferences, that is where this comes, how do we approach the subject? Is there a truth to it? How do we understand it? There are, let us say, internal evidences in the epics. There are external evidences. Internal evidences, when I say there are dates where the solar eclipse or lunar eclipse is given, there are dates in which the war has started and Bhishma is lying down, and all those dates are given. When is Gita Jayanti celebrated? These are all the internal things. External proofs are the places that you go. This is the place where Kurukshetra this happened. This is the place where Shantanu came. This is the place where Bhishma was born. All these things are also given. So you will find certain corroboratory evidences there also. You go through that. And then you go through the characters that are portrayed there, the arguments, debates, the confusions that they have, particularly the text which is trying to help us understand what this subtle concept of dharma is. Dharma is a term that cannot be translated into any other language. Probably in Tamil only you have an equivalent word, otherwise there is no word for dharma. English has various definitions, and the definitions go about 20 to 21 meanings are there. All are contextual meanings. Dharma means righteousness, dharma means religion, dharma means duty, dharma means action. Various definitions are there. But in order to understand the dharma, there are various characters which are going through the dilemma, and therefore if that same type of dilemma that we can go through or we are going through now, it can be easily related to how they went through it and what are the methods they adopted to resolve it. We see this aplenty in both Ramayana and Mahabharata. And that is why this dharma is said to be very subtle, sukshma. So various stories are given in which you will find that there is no exact set of do's and don'ts. There are no 10 commandments here. In one stage they will say you have to befriend another person and this is the method for it and you must never leave a friend. In another place they will say be doubtful always, never befriend anybody just like that. So we find this contradiction, and we find this contradiction in our lives also. So which are the places where you must, as Shakespeare says, you hold on to them like hoops of steel, he says, like that type of friendship when we should have. When is the time that we must be treated like a train friendship? That is, the friendship is there only up to the journey is there. Afterwards there is no friendship there. and when is the time you must be very careful and move away from them. When is the time that friendship will come, friendship has to part also. So this is called as dharma sukshma. Sukshma means it's subtle. These are dealt in detail in these texts. So if you are able to understand certain scientific principles given there, if you are able to understand, as I said, the internal and external evidences, the chances are that we will come to a conclusion that it must have happened. That is why the term used for Mahabharata and Ramayana or the epic in Sanskrit is called as Itihasa. Itihasa is the term used in Hindi also for history. It is history, but the term is Itihasa. Thus it happened. Firmly it says, thus it happened. So let us take an imaginary conversation between a person who is not believing and a person who is trying to infer from it. So the person says, how do you say all these things that it is written? So this person is asking in turn a question to him, how do you believe in the modern history? Modern history, people have researched, historians have researched. They have brought out proofs and other things, and that is why we believe it. Then he says, okay, you also believe the historians. That is the first thing. You believe the historians, it is not that you have done all the research by yourself. Even assuming that the historians don't have any motive and the historians have done the correct research also truthfully, we see that even in history there are various contradictions which we are talking about in modern history. Some person says there was never a invasion by what a set of people known as Aryans who came from outside India, because this is a theory that is given to us, it is still taught in our schools, very interesting. Some person says it is not there. Another historian says it is there. And both are doing their own research, both are quoting various texts of the past. Then why is there glaring contradiction like this even in the modern history? Some person says there is a Babur Masjid there and it was built over the Ram temple which was there before. So much evidences they have. Some person says no, it was never there, it was built just like that, they say. Both are historians. Both are having proofs of their own type. Now, who do we believe? We believe whom we want to believe. Where we have a certain connection to it, where we want to believe it, we believe it. And we believe also, and that's why I said reason and logic then convinces a person who is already convinced in that way. But even in modern history like this, various questions can be asked. It is not a big deal to ask questions. The aim must be to find out the truth as much as possible where you go towards it. Take a few centuries back also history in South India. There was a Chola king called, he was called as Manunidhi Chola because he was ruling perfectly the kingdom as Manu ruled. That's why he was called as Manunidhi Chola. It is that in his kingdom everybody got justice. So his own son was driving a chariot and the chariot ran over a calf of a cow. The cow was extremely disturbed and whoever is in distress can come and ring a bell. A bell is there. And once the bell is rung, somebody will take up and the king himself will then pronounce the judgment. So this cow went and rang the bell. And then king inquired why it is ringing. Then the people had to say, because that boy did not do it intentionally, but it killed the calf. So then he understood, as a very straightforward king, he said the same punishment has to be given, and he was riding the chariot over the son. Now, whether this actually happened, whether a cow rang the bell or not, we really do not know. Similarly, there is a history of in the Pandya kingdom that a great chaste woman called Kannagi, she was wronged by the king and she burnt the whole of the city of Madurai. This is a history. This is given in another epic, in Tamil epic called Silapadikaram. This is a recorded history coming again from that epic. Now, whether somebody can burn a city, how much truth is there in it, all this is secondary. The main point is there that the kingdom has to be ruled like this. This is the utmost integrity that the king had, with Dharma as the main. He was representative of Dharma and he would even go to the extent of providing justice to the cow also. This is what we need to take from it. Similarly, this chastity of a woman has a power. Whether she had an atom bomb and threw, or whether she had a matchstick and burned the whole city, that is a matter of detail, if at all it happened. But the point is, her chastity had a power. And this is what we need to relate to, because we are proud of we are what we are today based on what we were. This is an important connection that we need to have, because if the root of the history or civilization is taken off, we don't have a standpoint, we don't have a base to stand on. That is one of the problems that probably Pakistan is going through, because their root is here. It is the place of Sanatana Dharma and all the holy land where every aspect of Vedas and yoga, everything came about. But they do not want to relate to this. They are trying to place themselves as a root of Arabic civilization. They are neither there nor here. So when the root is not there, you will not have a direction as to what to go and where to go in the future. So we need to, the questions can be asked about in this type of a history, very easily we can ask questions about in the Ramayana and Mahabharata. What is interesting is, these questions are not neglected in the epic itself. They are asking the questions. Why should Draupadi marry 5 husbands? This is a question that is dealt in Mahabharata. And the answers that are given, Drupada, the father of Draupadi, is not convinced. And after all the arguments, finally Vedvyasa, the author of the text himself, comes and says, in extraordinary circumstances this has happened, and he quotes one circumstance that it has happened before, and he sort of reconciles and convinces. That's about all. So it is. We have to understand that this question was taken up in Ramayana and Mahabharata itself directly. That is the first point. So then, this person is asking, if everything has to be taken literally, then do we take all the things that are given in the Ramayana and Mahabharata, which are like a magic now? Now, what we consider as magic, the definition of magic is that our intellect is not able to comprehend. That is a magic. For a young kid, even the rocket that goes up is like magic, because everything comes down. And how is this rocket going up? It is a science. It's a rocket science. That rocket science is not understandable for us now. So that which goes up like this is like a magic for us now. So, whether we see that Abhimanyu was taught how to enter the Chakravyuha when he was in the womb, or we see that Gandhari has given birth to 100 children at the same time, and it is given in such a way it is somewhat equivalent to a test tube baby, a type of thing now. So whether all these things is correct or not, we may not know. But we cannot just rule out the possibility whether it has happened or not. And not only that, that which is called as a magic also is questioned in the epics. Shishupala was slayed by Lord Krishna during the Rajasuya Yaga in the Hastinapur, in Indraprastha, when Yudhishthira was performing it. Before that, Shishupala talks very abusive language about Krishna. And one of the main things that he says is, all that you talk about great Lord of Krishna and all he does as certain Leela, it is nothing but a pure magic. He is a magician. He has thrown dust into your eyes. You are praising him for no reason, and he is openly abusing him. He is openly abusing him. So that we consider as magic is also taken up and dealt with. Then this person is asking, all these things that you can say, but they are talking about all these things happening because of mantra. How do we believe all these things? So when we talk about Brahmastra and various other things, they say a mantra and it is said. It is the arrow goes and the devastation that is caused. How is it possible? If it is as easy as that, we see that how many technology and science and investment of money and everything is there to produce a missile, and latest technology is there. And how it is possible in those days, it is that they have done like this. Nowadays you can say that science and technology is advancing. Now you are talking about something happened which thousands of years back. So they are not able to relate to this. See, one thing we have to understand, that which is not understood by us now, they could have given it in certain way that we are able to relate to it. If each and every aspect of the mantra is explained and all the technical details are explained, we will not be able to understand it completely also. In the Mahabharata, a good portion goes to describing the war. In the war only various parvas come, Bhishma Parva, Drona Parva, all these parvas. They are talking about all the weapons, all the technology that is used, and none of us can we can understand what is given there. So they say mantra is given, it is given, and this is the effect. Like that it could be given. Imagine if at this present point of time we are advanced in technology and science, by whatever reason, through a nuclear war or something, the entire humanity is now devastated, it's gone. A very small handful set of people survive. And when they rebuild the civilization, what is it that can they relate to? They have to start from the scratch. We do not know how to grow a rice, or we do not know how to stitch our own clothes. So we have to start from the very scratch as to where the caveman started. Okay? But all our missile and technology, everything is written and stored. Many thousands of years later, when somebody reads this, oh, there was even an auditorium where you can speak through the mic and that noise is amplified somewhere. You can do a webcast here and somebody else sees somewhere else. All this will seem to be like a magic. Now, this type of a technology that could have been there, we cannot rule out this possibility. So, all this, he says, it is form of inference only. Yes, it is inference. We cannot say for sure it is there, we cannot say it is not there, but there is a good chance it might have been there also. That is the stance that we need to take. Finally, he says, all this epics and other things is only meant for creating bhakti in the Lord. You have to show Rama as great, you have to show Krishna as great, only then people will fall at their feet and sing their glories, and it is helping them emotionally also. For this only all this great construct was given. He says, yes, possible. Every Purana, every Itihasa also glorifies that particular god and goddess so that your bhakti is deep rooted there. But that alone cannot be the reason, because we see that in the same epic, Krishna is also abused. See, the end of the war, when Duryodhana falls down, hit by Bhima below the belt, Duryodhana is, he is within pain, and in that pain he talks of all the atrocities that Krishna had done throughout the war. And Krishna is silently listening to it, maybe his head is hanging down. And at the end of the monologue of Duryodhana, the Devas throw flowers upon Duryodhana. Say, well said, like that it is. It is given in the epic itself. So it is not, if Krishna has to be only glorified, this portion need not have been there. If Rama has to be glorified, because till today, all the extreme infinite qualities of Rama we don't discuss. Only thing we say is whether he hid behind the tree and shot Vali. This is the only discussion that is going on. If this particular portion was easily adjusted by Valmiki, this contradiction would not have happened. It's that story you keep it in such a way that Vali and Rama are having a straightforward duel and Rama wins the duel. It's very easy to change the story like that. But we see that there is an intellectual honesty in the authors to present it as it is. That is what we see there. So they do not want to have a motive of whether to create bhaktas out of us or anything like that. We see only that honesty, that let us present what is known to us as it is. It is up to the people to take it or leave it. It is this attitude that we see. Therefore, our approach to the Itihasas must be that you have to have definitely a devotional approach, but also the scientific inquiry, but with the shraddha that it might have happened. And these are just not recorded histories of the past, they are relevant to us now. How, when we confront dilemma in our day-to-day life, how have our heroes have done this? How have they confronted it? It is a direct lesson for us now. Otherwise, I really do not know, because I have not read Greek epics and other things, Iliad, Odyssey and all they say. But whether it is a living tradition, because the Greek civilization in that sense itself is not there now, but whether it is a living tradition which will help us now, I do not know. But definitely Ramayana and Mahabharata continues, and that is why new movies, new this thing again and again comes on the same line, because it is very much integral part of our life. If you come to know that your ancestor somewhere in Assam or somewhere in Rajasthan, some 4 or 5 generations back has left a small piece of land for you, whether or not you will get it now, somebody has encroached the land, all that is secondary. You may not even need it, but immediately there is a sense of curiosity in you that I need to go and see it, at least take a picture and come, at least see the documents if they are not there, because it is mine, it belongs to me. That sense of ownership, that sense of belongingness, that is the same approach that we need to have for the Mahabharata and Ramayana, that it belongs to us. Rama and Krishna are our gods. They are the people who we should, because nowadays every time, we are talked about, even Lord Buddha is okay. They say this is the land of Gandhi and Ambedkar. Gandhi and Ambedkar are very recent constructs in this land. This land is of Rama, Krishna, Shankaracharya and all other great stalwarts. We belong to that parampara. That is why I said when we forget the past and get ourselves uprooted or resonated from that, we don't have a future to pursue. So it is this approach that is required when we go into study of Ramayana and Mahabharata. Now, let us see some couple of points of differences between Ramayana and Mahabharata. Why people are able to relate to Mahabharata better than Ramayana. I am not saying Ramayana is any less. We but tend to worship Ramayana. We tend to worship Rama, but we maintain a distance. But Mahabharata is something very close to us. Why so? First is the story. Story in Ramayana is quite straightforward story. Rama's story, and it starts from, let us say, Dasharatha's reign till the end of the war, and Rama gets coronated again. So the span itself is very less. Valmiki Ramayana itself is around 47,000 odd verses when you take it in verses of 2 lines. And as I said, the story is quite straightforward. Mahabharata, it is very complex. There are plots and subplots within the story itself. And though it is mainly talking about the Kuru Vamsha, which is the Pandavas and Kauravas story and their ancestors, but there are various other kings of whom the details are also given. Various other kings of various other kingdoms, their ancestry and various things are given like that. So it becomes a very complex type of story structure. That is why everybody knows Ramayana sort of by heart. By heart means the story, but Mahabharata, not many don't know the details of it. So this is one aspect of it, which is the story aspect. Then the characters. The characters in Ramayana are very, very idealistic. High level of perfection in each of the characters, particularly the hero Rama. When you take Rama, he is the perfect son, he is the perfect brother, he is the perfect king, he is the perfect friend, he is the perfection in everything. And Bharata and Lakshmana are perfect brothers, Sita is perfect wife, and Hanuman is the perfect das. Ravana is the perfect villain. Like that, in the war also, war is a perfect war there. Rama tells you don't have a weapon, you better go out of the field. I will not fight with you. And Ravana goes and he feels embarrassed about it. In Mahabharata, that's not the case. Fight is there in the night also. When weapon is not there also, you will kill other person. So everything is about perfection there. So Ramayana sets a very high sense of idealism, which is where we need to reach, which is where we need to aspire for. But it is very difficult. So Rama has set a very, very high standard. And as far as Mahabharata is concerned, the characters are very complex. Each and every character has their own plus and minus. Yudhishthira, embodiment of dharma, but he has certain weaknesses. And Duryodhana was embodiment of jealousy. Yudhishthira played that gambling and he lost his family. That was his weakness. Duryodhana was negative for most of the time, but he also had certain positive qualities. How he came forward to help Karna. And as I said, he had his own personal problem with Pandavas and he was very, very vicious about it. But as far as we don't see any recording of how he ill-treated his subjects or anything like that. And people talk about his administration as good. Dronacharya was a great character. He was a Brahmin and he knew all the Vedas, but he had this Kshatriya tendency in him. So always there is, that is why this Varna Ashrama divide is discussed much more in Mahabharata through various characters at various places. Dhritarashtra always has this dilemma because he knows what is right, but he is not able to follow what is right. Always that dilemma between dharma and adharma comes, and therefore at every point he takes even refuge in saying, I do not do anything, it is only God who makes me do everything. So put the blame on God. This is what Dhritarashtra says. This is what his son Duryodhana also says later. But the dilemma of Yudhishthira is something else. His dilemma is not between dharma and adharma. His dilemma is between, let us say, a Brahmin's dharma and Kshatriya dharma, or a sannyasa dharma and a Kshatriya dharma. Which one I should follow? After the war, he is tormented by this dilemma only. So we see this complex character. And as I said, Dronacharya, a great guru, but you find that a sense of revenge is there in him always. Drupada, his childhood friend, had promised half the kingdom when he becomes king later on. And Drona went to him for the help of feeding his own son, where Drupada said, "You are not my friend. How can there be friendship between unequals? You are a poor person." And he just completely forgot. And this arrogant attitude of Drupada could not be digested by Dronacharya. So he said, "I will take revenge." And he taught the Pandavas and Kauravas, and as a Guru Dakshina, Arjuna captured Drupada. And half the kingdom he got, and he said, "Now we are equal because I am giving half to you." Dronacharya said. This seed of jealousy, this seed of revenge was there in Drupada's mind also. Then he said, "I will beget a daughter who will marry Arjuna. I will beget a son who will kill Drona." And again, that seed is there between Drishtadyumna and Ashwatthama. It continues. At the end of the war, Drishtadyumna kills Dronacharya, and then Ashwatthama takes revenge and kills everybody who was there sleeping on the end of the 18th day. So this seed of revenge continues. When do we stop this? We do not know. But this is the complex character of Dronacharya. We see the character of Bhima, we see the character of Draupadi. Each and everything is very intricately positioned. Very, very complex characters. So, characters of Ramayana and characters of Mahabharata. And why I am saying this character of Mahabharata is much closer to our age. That is why we are able to relate to it much easier there. Next is about the hero. Hero in Ramayana is very clear. It is Rama. Ramayana is Rama. And the story revolves around him. But who can you say is the hero of Mahabharata? Even though the story is revolving around Pandavas, Kauravas majorly, you cannot say any one of them, or even Karna or Duryodhana or Bhishma also as the hero. You can generally say Krishna, he comes more than half of the story. After the half of story he comes. But you can say he manages the whole show afterwards. Unlike Bhagavad Purana, which is centered around the god, his Leela and other thing, Mahabharata is not like that. We pick up even stories of Krishna from various sources, and then we knit them together to find out the whole. But still you can say Krishna is sort of a hero here. And the conduct of Rama and Krishna are completely different, though inwardly they are the same. According to the time they manifest and according to the time they express their infinite glory in the world. And lastly, the time period, as I said, Ramayana is said to have happened in Treta Yuga, and towards the end of Dwapara Yuga is Mahabharata. The yugas time are given as thousands and lakhs of years. We need not, it could be exaggerated or some other calculation it is, but we need not even take that on the face value. But there is enough time gap between Ramayana and Mahabharata. So we see that the society has deteriorated in various ways between these two periods. You see that Krita Yuga is an idealistic society, utopian society. It is said that in Krita Yuga there are no kings because everybody perfectly followed Dharma. There need not be anybody to make sure that the Dharma is functioning. There will not be any chance of anybody cheating or anybody taking another's money. All this is just not possible there. It is tough to imagine, but that is Krita Yuga. In Treta Yuga, king and other things are there, but by and large people are very perfect. In Dwapara Yuga and towards the end of it, when Mahabharata happens, there is, as I said, too much of complications, too much of wickedness and cunningness, all this thing comes. And then further deterioration is the Kali Yuga. So Swami Chinmayananda, our Paramaguru, he puts it very beautifully. He says, in Krita Yuga, the good and evil are very easily identifiable. They inhabit different lokas. There one is Deva Loka and another is Asura Loka. Devas and Asuras, their complexion, their way they look, everything is different. In Treta Yuga, good in the form of Rama and evil in the form of Ravana inhabit different continents or different countries, different lands altogether. One is in Ayodhya, another is in Lanka. This is separated, and that's how we understand. In Mahabharata, good and evil are Pandavas and Kauravas, which is in the same family, cousins. The Pandavas are good and the Kauravas are evil, like that it is separated. In Kali Yuga what happens? Both are within us. So, the Pandavas and Kauravas are actually within us. So, it comes very much closer to us. That is why we are able to relate to Mahabharata much better than Ramayana. And Ramayana, as I said, we keep it at a distance and we worship only Ramayana. It is very, very tough for us to walk on the path of Rama like that. But in Mahabharata also, dharma is explained, but through various characters, what not to do is also explained. What to do and what not to do, both are explained here. Is there a symbolism in Mahabharata? Because in Ramayana, the symbolism is quite obvious and very evident. Those who have the book of God symbolism, you read the portion, both Ramayana and Mahabharata are given by Swamiji, but Ramayana you will find a very perfect synchronization and coordination of human life to perfection, the state of self-realization, how the ego is separated from the self, and how the ego, jiva, gets back to the self is very nicely explained. We don't find that much of parallel or there in the Mahabharata, but in bits and pieces there are there. But obviously, Bhagavad Gita, which is the core of Mahabharata, that contains a lot of symbolism in it per se. Let's see a few things which is very obvious. Dhritarashtra, Gandhari. Dhritarashtra represents the mind which is blind, mind which is very attached. Gandhari, you can equate it in this context to intellect, which is supposed to guide the mind. Intellect is buddhi or vivek, but she chose to close her eyes with her cloth. So that means the intellect is not available to guide the mind, and the product of such a mind is this 100 Kauravas, which is all forms of negativities. Pandavas are 5 in number and they represent the positive tendencies of the mind, and usually this number also holds good. The negativities in our mind is much more than the positivities, maybe 20 times more. That's why 5 and 100 is given. But ultimately the war can be won over the negativities. We'll see how. We'll see the next symbolism. 13 years of exile. Again, why 13 years? We really do not know. There is a story behind 14 years in Ramayana and 13 years in Mahabharata. Do not know the exact significance, but once I heard that the gap between father and son widens in 14 years, and so that he cannot claim legal heirship after that. So Kaikeyi made sure that he goes for 14 years is a story. I do not know the authenticity of it. That became 13 years in Mahabharata. But what is the significance? When you have lost everything, in order to gain it back, you need to do tapas, and that tapas requires self-control. In that self-control, you need to control all the 5 senses of perception and 5 senses of action. So these 10 senses need to be controlled, and these are the 10 years. Then the mind and intellect needs to be disciplined. That is 12 years. 13th year is called as Ajñātavas. Ajñātavas is where you live incognito without revealing your identity. That means your ego is completely demolished. Afterwards, you fight the ultimate battle and emerge victorious. That way you can bring in the symbolism for the 13 years of exile. Next is Krishna. Obviously Krishna represents the self, God, Atma in you. Krishna is the inactive principle. There is an episode before where he is lying on the bed sleeping, representing the inactive principle of Atman. Arjuna also comes for help, Duryodhana also comes for help. That means the God Tattva is neutral to both. It is a witness of both. Yet, it will help those who approach him with devotion, seeking his help. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham. Whoever, however, approaches me in that form, I help them in that form. If somebody asks me for wealth, I give him that. If somebody asks me for me, myself, I give myself to him. Like that it is. So Duryodhana asked for the army, and Arjuna asked for Krishna only, though he said, I will be unarmed and not fighting. So Arjuna got Krishna and Duryodhana got the army, and ultimately with the help of Krishna, Arjuna was able to conquer. What is this Kurukshetra? The first statement, Kurukshetra, Dharmakshetra. Kurukshetra is the field where the battle happened, battlefield. All the battles used to happen in Kurukshetra. This Kurukshetra is the battlefield of our own body. This Kshetra is the Kurukshetra. Constantly there is a dilemma, there is a fight between the Pandavas and Kauravas, which is the mind and the intellect, which is the positive tendencies and the negative tendencies. So the Dharmakshetra has become the Kurukshetra. And the chariot is a picture always of Bhagavad Gita. We see Krishna driving Arjuna and the 4 horses are there, but a picture of chariot is given in Kathopanishad. Kathopanishad says this chariot is your body. Who is the rider there? The rider is the jiva or the individual. And what are the horses? 4 instead of that, take 5. 5 horses represent the 5 senses. 5 horses are very powerful and they will go in all directions. Such power they have. Similarly, 5 senses go in all directions. But they are all reined together to one rein. That one rein is the mind. And that is held by the charioteer who is the intellect. So, the picture of Krishna driving Arjuna in the battlefield is representative of your own personality. If the intellect holds the mind in place, then the chariot can take you to the destination. If the intellect doesn't hold the mind, if the reins become loose, the senses go in their own direction, then there is no scope for the individual to redeem himself. So the chariot is a very powerful symbolism there. And as I said, Dharma Kshetra has become Kurukshetra. So if you change the words in the first verse, Dharma Kuru Kshetre Kshetre, Dharma Kshetre Kuru Kshetre, you can say Dharma Kuru Kshetre Kshetre. So the redemption, I think Swami Ranganathananda says, the redemption is also given that you do your duty in every field. Kshetre Kshetre means in every field you do the duty. That is the redemption for you. And very powerful message of Bhagavad Gita is given. It is sandwiched between 2 important words, Dharma in the beginning and Mama in the end. Dhruva Neeti Matit Mama, says Sanjaya in the very last verse. Last word of the last verse is Mama. So if you ask what is the message of Gita, you can say it is sandwiched between these 2 words, Mama and Dharma. So Mama Dharma is the relative level, my duty or my original nature. My original nature, what it is, that is what Gita essentially represents. So there is a lot of symbolism as far as the battlefield and Bhagavad Gita is concerned. Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetra we said, and the idea or the philosophy of Gita is given in the in-between 2 armies. It is called as Senayor Ubayor Madhye. Wherever certain terms are coming in Bhagavad Gita and it is repeated more than once or twice, we can understand that there is a subtle meaning that is conveyed there. Senayor Ubayor Madhye comes 3 times. Twice in first chapter and once in second chapter. Arjuna asked Krishna, take my chariot in between 2 armies so that I can see who is fighting with me. And he takes that. And that is where Bhagavad Gita is given. So, the Bhagavad Gita is the ultimate knowledge of the self. When can you take the knowledge of the self? You can take the knowledge of the self only when you have distanced yourself from the karma. And the karma is of 2 types, which is positive karma, punya karma and papa karma. So first you get out of papa karma and then get out of the punya karma also. So this is what is known as the classical middle path given in the Upanishads. So that middle path is represented here. The Kaurava army represents the selfish karma or the bad karma because of which papa is the result. The Pandava army represents the punya karma for which the punya is the result, good karma. And then if you want to learn the knowledge of the self, you have to distance from these 2 and you have to stand in between. So that is represented by Senayor Ubayor Mati. Then we saw this Mama Dharma. And one more last symbolism which we can say is the picture that is given in the invitation card also. It's a famous episode. One of the central points of Mahabharata is the Draupadi Sharanagati or the surrender of Draupadi. Before we get into this, we have to remember that symbolism must not be taken as dry intellectualism. You have to feel the episodes of Mahabharata and Ramayana and other episodes as it is. If it does not touch your heart, then there is no way that we are going to end up understanding the meaning only through symbolism. It is just not possible. Otherwise it will be a dry intellectual discussion. Nothing you will learn from it. Okay. Not only that, it has a danger of saying it is all symbolic. You need not go into the depth or detail of it. All that would not have happened, it's all symbolic. It's all symbolic. You can cover up everything with symbolism and finally lose the essence of the bhakti aspect in it, the episode aspect in it. Suppose Rama is meeting Guha, Rama is meeting Vibhishna, Rama is meeting Sugriva. All these he is taken up as brothers. What is the symbolism? What could this represent? You don't need to go into symbolism in each and every aspect. You have to experience Rama's friendship or brotherhood with Guha as it is. That will invoke the greatness of the Lord in our mind and elevate our emotion to bhakti. That is how it has to be taken. Similarly, the highest form of bhakti is shown by Draupadi here. Draupadi is worshipped as goddess in this country. She is one of the Pativratas, even though she has 5 husbands. Okay. Now, you have to understand the position in which she is calling out Lord's names in the Sabha. where it is an extremely negative environment there. All the 100 that side and 5 this side, because on that day they were also not in their usual self. And in that place, ultimately when every other avenue has been not available for her, she finally calls out to Lord, and Lord helps. Whether he came directly or not, the power helped is the story. Now you have to go into the depth of it to understand the emotion which is transacted by Draupadi there. In fact, Krishna later in Mahabharata says, even if everybody calls for truce, I am not indebted to any of them, I am indebted only to Draupadi, he says. And whatever she wants, that will be fulfilled. He gives it as a promise. Because she called his name in a situation where it is absolutely not conducive. Now, when you call out a Lord as, what is Lord understood by us? He is infinite power and he is infinite mercy. He has that infinite power. Did Krishna come from Dwaraka to help? We do not know. He did not come. That is not the recorded history. Did Krishna send tons and tons of saris through somebody or somebody to help? No. It is just that it happened. Just like that. So when Draupadi finally called out Krishna in whatever state of consciousness that she was, what was her relationship to Krishna? It was not one more person. It was the Supreme Lord himself. So the way in which she approached Krishna and she called him was that he was the Supreme Lord and he presented himself accordingly there. So therefore he says, I am indebted to Draupadi, because let us say here is a satsang. All of us are positively oriented here. Now let us chant Lord's name, or we sing a song or bhajan or say Govinda. People, when we ask to shout also, they feel shy. When everybody shouts in unison, somebody may join, or you may say it in a very low volume. That's what we will do. And this is a conducive atmosphere. Even then, this is our attitude. Imagine a place where it is not conducive at all. Everybody is in gambling mood. Everybody is totally negative in their mindset. At that point of time, all alone as a lady, if she has to say that there, she must be of an extraordinary character. So you have to experience the episode as it is. Having experienced that, then you go into symbolism, it will make meaning. And nobody else except Swami Ramatirtha can interpret it this way. Very interesting. These 5 Pandava brothers who are married to Draupadi is representative of the 5 senses yoked to one mind. There is a verse in Gita which says these senses are very powerful. There is a tug of war which always goes on between you and the world, constantly. The world is trying to pull you to inside and you are trying to have that combat and you try that to pull the world, or you try to protect yourself. You show this tug of war. There is the individual with his intellect, mind and senses on one side, and the world is on the other side with thoughts, emotions and objects. The objects correlate to senses, the mind correlates to emotions, the intellect correlates to thoughts, and the individual and the world is there. Tug of war is the only game where the winner goes backwards, isn't it? In all other games, winner runs forward only. It's the only game where winner goes backwards. As though the world retreats and goes forward, you seem to push yourself along, but in the process what is happening is actually you are losing yourself. You are losing yourself in the battle against this world. And which of your army which falls first? It is the senses. Senses are that which is getting attracted to the world very, very powerfully. See, it is said in the 1950s, whatever an average American saw as advertisements throughout his lifetime, we are seeing it less than 6 to 7 months now. That is how it is made very powerful and attractive. It is there, and each and every ad is catering to any one of our 5 senses only, mostly, except the Prime Minister scheme or Ujjwala scheme. If any ad is there, except that, all the ad is only for temptation of our senses. That is why in Ramayana also Vali symbolism is that he represents the sense objects, because senses, when it come in front of you, you lose half your power to that. Vali has that boon. Anybody comes in front of him, they lose half their power. So even if Vali starts with 0, he is more than you when he confronts you and he will defeat you. Like that, the sense objects will take control and it will defeat you. What happens first? Senses are pulled. When senses are pulled, they don't keep quiet. The senses pull the mind along, and then mind pulls the intellect along. Versus the Sthita Prajna portion, verses 60 to 68 explains about this only. And once the intellect goes, Buddhi Nasha Pranashyati, the intellect goes means the individual is finished. This is the message of the Bhagavad Gita. In this episode of gambling, what happens? The brothers first lose all their possessions and then they lose themselves. One by one they lose themselves. Yudhishthira loses himself. When he loses himself, it doesn't keep quiet there, it pulls Draupadi along. Draupadi represents the mind and intellect which is yoked to this. So there is helplessly she is pulled there along for no fault of hers, but that's how it is. And at that stage, when you are pulled and when you are neck deep in trouble, what is the redemption? That is what she shows. Because these are not going to help you. All are mountains. Each and every husband of us is a mountain. But they are helpless. They can't do anything. Who is the only source of help for you? At that point of time, and the story is that natural for her to try to protect her with her strength. That strength of hers is nothing compared to the strength of brutal strength of Dushasana. It's not possible. But it's natural for her to try that first. That is why when she is trying to hold on to her with one hand also, nothing happens. Finally, she lets loose both the hands, she lets go, and then she completely surrenders herself in that mood to Lord Krishna, which is the Atman. So this is what the mind can do. When the elephant Gajendra was trying to hold on to the fight with the crocodile, with all its strength by itself, it went on for thousands of years is the story. Nothing could happen. The crocodile was winning slowly. It was pulling the elephant down. A time came where it is going to be drowned, and finally at that point of time it says, no, I can't, you please save me. That is the time of surrender. This can be understood as what is known as Artha Prapatti. Artha means, Artha is a person who is in extreme emotional distress where he has no help from the world, so he looks up to God as the help. Correct? But at that stage also, there are people who don't turn this side at all. So at that point of time, when you lose everything of yourself, your ego completely dissolves. In that point of time, when you surrender unto infinity, which is Krishna, what happens is that mind gains infinite power. So that is why she got that sari infinite. And against that power, Dushasana's power is finite. Finite can never uncover infinite. This is what this episode depicts. Finite efforts cannot uncover infinite. Infinite has to reveal itself. And when it will reveal itself in a deep state of surrender. So this episode is talking about the state of absolute self and the path to reach it also. The path of the surrender it shows also. So there is enough symbolism also in Mahabharata. And Mahabharata's message is, what to say, again infinite. There is a verse which says, Dharme cha arte cha kame cha mokshe cha Bharatashava. That is, Vaishampayana is narrating the Mahabharata story to Janamejaya. That is how we get the entire Mahabharata. So he says, these are the four Purusharthas. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Then Dharma means Dharma, righteousness. Artha means wealth, acquisition. Kama is enjoyment. And Moksha, when you are fed up with all these three, you are looking forward to getting out of the world, which is liberation, which is called Moksha, ultimate purpose of life. People are living for these four purposes. You can put any permutation and combination, it has to fit into any of these four. In any of these four, he says, Yat iha asti tat anyatra, yat iha nastri tat na kvachit. Whatever is there in Mahabharata can be found anywhere else. But whatever is not found in Mahabharata cannot be found anywhere else. Therefore, Mahabharata is the ultimate encyclopedia. It is called as the fifth Veda. So it has the prestige of being a Veda, which gives the ultimate knowledge of the God also. It gives the ultimate knowledge of the world also. So we cannot just even list out the messages that are there in Mahabharata. We'll see a few. First is, this is a very, very important message. Had only India followed this message, we would not have been enslaved by outsiders. Paraspara virade tu vayam pancha shatam tute. As far as outsiders are concerned, we are 105. Amongst us, we are 5 and they are 100. Yudhishthira tells Arjuna and Bhima. When in forest, a Gandharva comes and Duryodhana misbehaves and there is a fight between them, Duryodhana is held captive. Somebody from their camp comes and tells Pandavas that Duryodhana is captured, why don't you please help? Yudhishthira tells Bhima and Arjuna, go and help him. They are already in very much anger with Duryodhana that they don't want to do, and now somebody else is doing, why do you want to interfere? To which Yudhishthira makes a very famous statement, for outsiders we are 105, always maintain that. Amongst us we will fight later, we are 5 and they are 100, that fight we will see later. If only you take up Indian history, how much ever there were foreign invasions, whether it be through East India Company and British, whether it through Mughal invasion or any other Islamic invasion, we were fighting amongst ourselves and we did not present a united front among them, against them. That will cause all the downfall. There were several cases of Jai Chand and other episodes which caused, and all this for silly reason that we lost the entire sovereignty. If you read China's history, just before the end of the Second World War, they show this. They also have few, internal fights amongst them, but whenever Japan or any other allies come, they immediately form a truce and they fight against the common enemy. And then, when that is over, they will fight amongst themselves. This must be the right approach. Amongst us, we can always fight. You see, you may say, anyway, God is coming and punishing through them. You don't understand, because if the neighbor's house is on fire, sooner it is going to come to you also. So you have to have the total overall picture as to what is the circle of that enmity also. So for the sake of a silly gain, you cannot lose your sovereignty. Very important message, particularly for India. Next is, it talks about Brihaspati Neeti and Shukra Neeti. This is reiterated by Bhishma again in Shanti Parva also. Brihaspati Neeti says, in essence, if you want to, let us say, if you want to deal with others who has done harm to you, you have to deal it in the most sattvic way. These are the Neeti which can be seen as parallel in, let us say, if somebody slaps one cheek, then show the other cheek also. It is attributed to Christ or Gandhi and all this. If somebody asks for your kurta, give your dhoti also to him. These are some of the things that is given. But will it work? Yes, it will work. When it will work? If somebody is really a nice person, he is generally a sattvic person, for some reason he has lost a cool for a moment and he slaps me, I need not immediately go for a fight with him. All that I need to also control myself and offer him my other cheek. It will turn his mind. He will feel embarrassed. This is how sattvic people relate to. See, in the Vaikunta, when the four Kumara brothers, they go there, and the Jaya Vijaya, who are the Dwarapalakas, they don't allow them inside. Immediately, the Sanat Kumaras, they get angry and they give a curse, and that's why they are born as Ravana, Kumbhaka, and all the story is there. After that curse is given, they also regret, why did we lose our temper here? And that too in the front of Lord's place. And they also, the other side, Jaya Vijaya also, they also regret, why did we not allow them? They after all have a right to go anywhere that they want. So this is the relation, because both of them are generally sattvic in nature. It is for a time or a moment that they have lost it. So Brihaspati Neeti will work only in that circumstance. In the present circumstance, we need to put it in the loft only. And then take it out on Saraswati Puja day and do puja on that day. What will work is Shukra Neeti. Shukra Neeti says, Maya charaha mayaya baditavyaha. Sadhva charaha sadhuneva. So, a sadhu nature, if it is there, you deal with in sadhu nature. If a maya nature, false nature is there, you deal with in false nature. This is what Lord Krishna showed in the war. If somebody slaps me on one cheek, I show the other cheek, he slaps again. I show the other cheek, he slaps again. How long can it go? It cannot go on forever. And this is a very wrong principle, always attributed to Mahatma Gandhi also. Eye for eye will make a whole world blind. It will not make. In fact, 2 eyes for eye will stop that then and there. If it is 2 eyes are taken for 1 eye, the whole process of eye for eye will not come at all. It is a very wrong thing. Even if 1 eye is taken for the other eye, problem will be solved there. If you do not react to it, for what reason you have to lose an eye? For what reason you have to show the other cheek? So, it will work when you speak the language that is understood by others. Peace was given every chance. Even with 5 villages we will rule or 5 towns we will rule was given, and then nothing was working. Then finally war was imposed. Even in Shukra Neeti and other places they talk about Sama, Dana, Beda, Danda. When all other avenues are closed, finally Danda Neeti or punishment or war or beating, that is to be undertaken. And in that there were rules of the war also. And finally Kauravas had to be spoken of in the same language as they have also spoken. In the other side also how they killed Abhimanyu, and from this side also how they finished off various heroes, all that we know. But Krishna made sure from the overall picture, Dharma has to be established, and whatever has to be done for that, he did it. There is no point taking in isolation only the episode of Duryodhana and Bhima and talking about whether they followed the rules of war. Kauravas who have never followed any rules throughout their lives cannot talk about this. This is what? This is called as in English now what about you? What about this? What about you did all these things throughout your lifetime? This is what Krishna is asking them. They don't have any answer. What about you did this in Sabha to Draupadi? All these things. Who is to be answerable for that? No answer. So, if ultimately you have to speak the language that is only understood by them, you have to speak it. This is, in a way, Swamiji calls this as what is known as aggressive goodness. Goodness must be there, but sometimes you have to speak the aggressive language which is understood by the other side. There are 5 things that always needs to be ended completely. 3 things are given always, but other 2 also we read somewhere else. Agni Shesham, Rina Shesham, Shatru Shesham and all they say. What it means is, when you are at fight with something, you go all out and finish it off completely. Do not leave any residue. If you leave in disease also, you take poison out of the system, you leave a little bit. We see in the cancer cell another thing, one is there, it will again come out. Weed, you have to take the weed out of that ground means you have to take it out completely. Fire, you cannot leave one small portion of fire. Debt, when you finish off the debt, you go for some conclusion with the bank and make some arrangement, but completely finish it off then and there. Enemy. This country was partitioned in 1947 based on religious lines. If the partition was inevitable at that point of time, that we need to grudgingly agree. But the partition was not done properly, otherwise the problem would not have continued till now. All the energies that India need to focus on something, maximum energy, maximum resources of security and various things is given to such a way that it is quite unnecessary and unproductive. Why? It was not done properly. If you have to partition, you have to partition, and with exchange of population, it must have been completely taken out of the system. Mahabharata gives. So all this, see, it is interesting then that they say every house has Ramacharita and Ramayana, but there is a myth that is circulating about Mahabharata that you must not keep Mahabharata book at home because fight will come. All this is where it is given, we really do not. We must have Mahabharata also. You know, we must have Mahabharata and we must read these things. We must read these things in Mahabharata and apply it in our life. Next. Man management. We may not have time to go through, but there is an interesting portion that you can go through. Just as we say, Dronacharya and Drupada, you read to understand the aspect of revenge in a personality. How revenge functions, and without like that, one portion comes how Yudhishthira is a capable management person. One of the key aspects of management is to give the right job to the right person. You need not then even follow. I mean, you will have to as a leader follow, but I am saying if that person is well trained and you give it to them, it is well taken care of. In Rajasya area, where there is a huge congregation of people, lakhs of people are going to come and you have conquered all the territories and everybody has accepted you as the king. So all the vanquished people, friends, emperors, all people come. So at that point of time, how to deal with the crowd? Who is going to deal with which department? So Yudhishthira was very capable of handling this. In a congregation as big as that Rajaswi Yaga, you can say now, let us say, a political rally is there, where thousands or lakhs of people are there, and people have come from districts, people have come from all over, and as a party you have invited. Let us say after the rally you need to feed them. That is not an easy task. And there you cannot go for varieties, but you need to feed all of them with good food. And whatever is the simple food, you need to feed them. Who was an expert in that? Bhima. Bhima Paka, there is a Paka means cooking. Bhima is very capable of arranging food for any number of people. Traditionally, when it comes to cooking, we talk about two people from our Puranas. One is Nala and Bhima. Nala Paka and Bhima Paka we say. Nala is invoked whenever there is a finesse that is required to present your food for, let us say, a party. Suppose you are having an exclusive party for elite guests who you have invited. You need to arrange everything in a very proper way. You have fruits, you have salads, you have ice cream, you have various other things. And there is a finesse to preparation, there is a finesse to presentation, and then there is a, people even take pictures before you serve. Like that it is. Nala is expert in that, Bhima is expert in this. So Bhima is given in charge of the taking care of the food. Arjuna, who has a general respect for the people, for the elders and for everybody, he is in charge of making sure that everybody is received and put in their places properly. Whoever is in charge of the rooms allotment and everything, that is Arjuna's role. Nakula is in charge of materials management, because Yajna has a lot of materials. Not only the people come in chariots, the horses need to be fed. There is stock for the kitchen, there is stock for the puja, there is stock of everything that is there, material. People have to be given, let's say, you provide towels and soap and whatnot. All those material management is taken care by Nakula. Sahadeva, who is spiritually inclined, is in charge of dealing with the priests and others who are actually conducting the yajna. Because these are very minute and intricate details, because that is the main thing, that they all come for yajna. Water has to be kept here, bricks has to be there, all the puja items, and what has to come in which order, this is a separate department by itself. Sahadeva is in charge of that. Draupadi, who is the queen and who is the lady of the house, she is in charge of that everybody is overall in charge of, everybody is taken care of properly and fed properly. Because there is nobody who can feel that way like the lady of the house and do it. Then Kripacharya gave the portfolio, two important portfolios, one to Duryodhana and one to Karna. There are some people, because whenever there is a big function like this, there are people who come and offer gifts, because you don't go empty-handed to these functions. In a marriage also, there is a commerce involved, but the spirit is not commercial. See, you don't say that for marriage you don't bring gifts, we will also not give you food. No, that doesn't work. You have to give them food, and then they also will bring something. But the spirit is not commercial. It is not that you are going to give them food according to the presentation that they give or something like that. But people will bring. So there are some people who always notice as to what gift is coming all the time. They are constantly noticing who is getting what. So Duryodhana belongs to this category. So he says, let him be in charge of that. Let him collect everything and keep, so that he knows what is coming in also. And there is another department where you give what is known as a return gift. Whoever comes has to be given something as a send-off. And who is the best person to do? That is Karna. Because even if you have allotted certain money and if you want to give it to them, a person might be big-hearted and he has enough provisions and he wants to give. The manager of that person, being very loyal to him, he will not give. So you need to put a person in charge who also wants to give. And who better can be there than Karna. So all of these people are allotted exactly the right duties. So Yudhishthira is now bindas. He has no worry whatsoever. Krishna, what is the role that he has taken? He only took the duty upon himself. Whoever comes, he will wash their feet, the Brahmins and others. He will wash their feet, rishis, and then he will apply that water upon himself. He is the Lord of Lords. He is showing by the path as to how we must do. That is the role, and he undertook not just to show, genuinely he did. And that is why during the yajna he got the prime honor also. So, man management, if you say management principle, this is a very interesting episode that anybody can read. Lastly, I mean, it's not last, but I'm just saying, Yaksha Prashna. Yaksha Prashna is a small book of general knowledge. That questions that which is not dealt in Yaksha Prashna, you will not find anywhere else. Or, questions even like what makes the sun rise, about environment, about science, what is the only animal that sleeps with its eyes open. All these questions are asked. Yaksha Prashna is where if you remember, Yudhishthira is answering the question of Yaksha before he can drink water from the lake. All others are dead. That is the episode. Last question that he asked there is, "Oh Yudhishthira, what is the most wonderful thing in this universe, in this world? Most Ashcharyavat, what is it?" Yudhishthira says, "Daily people see that others are dying and the people are getting carried to the cremation ghat. And yet the people even who they carry, the people who are carrying, they think that they are going to live forever. What can there be anything more wonderful than this?" And Yaksha says it is right. So you will find philosophical questions, you will find very practical questions, you will find scientific questions. All these are answered in the Yaksha Prashna. Bhagavad Gita, obviously we need not say. It is the canonical text of Vedanta. Vedanta has innumerable texts, but these three, Upanishads, which is the source of all, Bhagavad Gita, which is the essence of Upanishad, Brahma Sutra, which is again authored by Vedvyasa, which is giving the treatise in the form of sutras, short sentences as to what is the essence, all that is forming the tripod on which the Vedanta philosophy stands. It is called as Prasthana Traya. Bhagavad Gita forms the middle portion. In the middle portion of Gita it comes just before the war. Climax is the war, everybody waits for it. In the movie you go on, before the climax if it is given, nobody can miss it also. So Bhagavad Gita is like the pendant in the mala of Mahabharata. Vishnu Sahasranama. Vishnu Sahasranama is one of the famous Sahasranamas of Lord Vishnu, given by Bhishma to Yudhishthira in Anushasana Parva, which comes much later after the war. It is just a way of discussion. They want to glorify Lord's name. Lord's name has all the power, and in Kali Yuga we are said that we have to write Lord's name or say Lord's name. That itself will solve all the problems. So there is a discussion whether Krishna actually came to Draupadi's help in the Sabha or not. So some people say he came incognito, or some people say he did not come. Then actually who gives the saris then? The power of Lord's name uttered by Draupadi only gave. So then they are asking, how are you sure that Krishna did not come? So this person says, I am sure he did not come, because if he had come that day, in the mood that he was, he would have finished off the 100 this side and 5 that side. But because both were parties to the crime that happened that day, then why did he not come and finish? The Mahabharata would have been over then. He waited because two important texts are yet to come. Bhagavad Gita and Vishnu Sahasranama. That has to come later. So he let go. It came, his name only came. This is just a way of explaining. But not only Vishnu Sahasranama. There are various other Sahasranama which may not be as popular as Vishnu Sahasranama. More popularized after M.S. Subbulakshmi chanted, and it is there in all temples. Shiva Sahasranama is there. That comes in Shanti Parva. And similarly, there are around more than 20-25 Gitas also. Bhagavad Gita is the most famous of all. The Lord himself has given. With Arjuna as the Adhikari, because we are able to relate to Arjuna much more. He is representing the man of action. There is Uddhava Gita, there is Dattatreya Gita, there is Rudra Gita, there is Parashara Gita. Parashara Gita also comes in Mahabharata only. Like that, various Gitas are there. So that's why I said, if we have to even list out what are the things that are available, probably one day is not enough even to list out. All these are wealth of information, not pertaining to just Vedanta. All worldly matters are given here. The Shanti Parva, next, we'll quickly finish because time's up. Shanti Parva is considered to be the fruit of Mahabharata. If you consider Mahabharata as the tree, Shanti Parva and later next Parva, Anushasan Parva is considered the fruit. Wait, what do you go to the tree for? Only the fruit. The fruit is the Shanti Parva. In Shanti Parva and Anushasana Parva, the story doesn't move at all. Daily, Yudhishthira, the Pandavas, Krishna and all others who are there surviving, plus the rishis who are all there, they go to Bhishma because he is going to live up to Uttarayana, and after that there is going to be gloom in the world and Kali-yuga is going to come. If at all you need to sustain, Krishna says, go and approach Bhishma, learn from him all the tricks, learn from him all the knowledge. And Krishna says, it is my duty to expose the great knowledge of Bhishma also. So all of them gather together on a daily basis, they go to him, evening they come back. They go to him and come back, and Bhishma is given power by Krishna so that he has enough energy to answer all the questions. This portion is called as Shanti Parva. As I said, the main story doesn't revolve or it is over. The coronation happens, all that is happening here. And it is not only helping Yudhishthira, the term Shanti Parva is just not the Shanti after the war. It is Shanti, I think, of Yudhishthira's mind also. Yudhishthira is extremely tormented after the war. I am giving you certain things that are given in Shanti Parva. If you have time, if you have any good resource material, please go through it. And Yudhishthira is confused and he says, I have killed everybody, I want to go to forest and do tapas. His brothers give, then Draupadi talks, then Krishna talks, then Vedvyasa comes himself and talks. All of them are trying to convince him and they give various reason, logic, even convoluted arguments only to make sure that his mind is at peace. Next. Vyasa and gives various logics. As I said, certain logic is not actually logical, but he is making Yudhishthira in such a way that desperately he has to make sure that he rules. Because a good king like Yudhishthira is required for the rule, continue of the rule. If there is no king, there will be chaos there. History of many kings that he gives, and Vedvyasa also tells who is the adhikari to get dhanam. Who is the rightful adhikari to get dhanam? Dhanam is a very important spiritual practice. Then Yudhishthira becomes the king and he starts approaching Bhishma on a daily basis. He talks about, bulk portion of Shanti Parva is also about Rajya Dharma. Rajya Dharma is the most important of all dharmas. See, if dharma is what you need to supposed to do. Certain things are called as common dharma, which is open for all, which is everybody should follow. Speaking truth is a common dharma. Ahimsa is a common dharma. Everybody should follow. But there are certain things which are very specific. Certain things are Varna Ashrama Dharma. Certain Brahmin has to do certain things, Kshatriya has to do certain things. Forgiveness is quite natural to a Brahmin. But a king cannot keep on forgiving everybody. Then there will not be a rule of law in the land. So, king's dharma is different. Vaishya's dharma is different. A Shudra's dharma is different. Well, ladies' dharma is different. Gents' dharma is different. Sannyasa, like that, various dharmas are there. If all the dharmas have to function properly, which is the umbrella which is to be held aloft, that is Rajya Dharma. So Rajya Dharma is extensively dealt with. All the intricate questions which we cannot even think of, all these are foreign diplomacy, 4 varnas, what are the punishment that has to be meted out for different types of people, what are the 36 gunas that a king should practice, when is the time of peace, when you should have diplomacy, what are the rules, who you should keep as spies, what are their qualities, what are the background that you need to check, what are the war preparations, how you must inquire before any case comes to you, strategy, various interpersonal relationships, international relationships, interstate relationships, and where you must keep faith, where you must not keep faith. All this is dealt in detail. I mean, really, it is a voluminous treatise by itself, but if at all, our constitution needs to be formed. A good portion of Shanti Parva, the frame, whoever is framing the constitution, they must be well aware of. Dharma, how it is to be supported by the king. Because not unlike a European way of life, king is not absolute and God here. Dharma is absolute. King is the representative of the Dharma. So Rajya Dharma is very important. As I said, various common dharmas are also talked about. Ingratitude, ahimsa, what are the effects of it? various things are talked about. Then creation theories. Various theories are given in Upanishads, like that various theories how Vishnu created the world. What are the avatars of Vishnu? And all the avatars are also explained in detail as in the other Puranas. That's why Mahabharata is a bulky portion. As it is said before, what is not found in Mahabharata is not found anywhere else. Everything is found here. Puranic stories are also given here, like how Lord Shiva controlled the anger of Brahma. Daksha Yajna, which is a famous portion where Shiva destroys the Daksha Yajna, where he is doing it with all pomp and show and arrogance without any attitude of devotion. What will happen? Next, holy texts, as I said, like Shiva Sahasranama, Parashara Gita, Vashishta's advice to Janaka, bulky portion talked about even Vedanta philosophy, all that is given here. Why we must think and act, what is the importance of intellect, and all this is given as in the form of stories. We see in Aesop fables, certain common dharmas are used explaining the stories using animal characters. The root of all Aesop fables, Hitopadesha, Panchatantra, Jataka tales, you will find everything root here only. In Shanti Parva and Anushasana Parva, every dharma and dharma sukshma is explained by Bhishma using stories. We don't have time even to go through one of the stories. I just had a few stories in mind to effects of japa, self-control, who is a Brahmin. This question comes up again and again and again. Who is a Brahmin? What is a king? What are his qualities? What are his roles? Everything is analyzed to a minute detail there. Yeah. See, as I said, there are various stories. I wanted to reveal or relate certain stories, but we just don't have time. You can at leisure take up these stories. These are available. We have books outside of Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, who is also a co-sponsor of the event. Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan has published various books. Rajagopalacharya's work on Ramayana and Mahabharata are quite outstanding. Very concise. Anybody can approach and take it. It acts like a ready reckoner also. Though voluminous, he has covered it almost in detail the story aspect of it. So you can go through and make it a habit to relate the stories to children. Though we have the cartoons and other things now, and I would say even if you have the videos of the earlier Ramayana and Mahabharata of Doordarshan, which is Ramanand Sagar and B.R. Chopra's, that is good enough to watch. But the habit of storytelling is very important. Grandmother telling the grandchildren. Nowadays grandchildren don't have time because they are too much preoccupied with various appointments. They have this class and that class. They don't. Grandmother also, they don't know the stories probably now. So then there is a gap. So when we actually teach the children with the stories, probably it's an aim for us to learn also. So we need to inculcate this habit. In the last portion of the Swarga Arohana Parva, Vedvyasa talks about a very important aspect. He says, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, these are the four Purusharthas. Purusharthas mean these are the aim of life. These are the goals of life. What eventually happens is people forget Dharma and they try to get hold on to this Artha and Kama, which Swamiji famously always says as acquisition and enjoyment. Acquisition and enjoyment. There is no end to this and there is no direction to this. You can keep on doing this for the rest of your life. Ultimately you lose the pleasure also. Ultimately you have no sense of direction. So Vedvyasa says, why don't you just follow Dharma? When you follow Dharma, which is the right thing to do in life, you will find that you will get enough wealth for you out of it. And out of it, there is a license for you to have legitimate enjoyments in life also. Karma is also there for you. But because the base is Dharma, you will find the saturation of all the three and then you will want to go beyond all the three into moksha also. So he says in the shloka, and this is what is known as the Bharata Savitri. It is said that early morning if you even recite this shloka, it is very punya, it is very helpful. The meaning of it says, Najatu kaman na bhayan na lobha dharmam tejet jivitasyapi hetoho. Nityo dharmaha sukadike tu anitye jivo nityo jivaha dhaturasya tu anityaha. He says, one should never forsake dharma, righteousness, even if there is a pressure of desire, fear, greed or loss of life. Because dharma is all important. If you have dharma as the base, all other things will follow. He says dharma you hold on to that rope, it will automatically pull you in the right direction where wealth, enjoyment, it is going to follow you. And then, only when Dharma is the base is there, at some point of time you will want even to know what is beyond Dharma, what is beyond the world. Then you will seek what is Brahman, righteousness. Nityo Dharma, Sukha Dukkhe Anitye. Sukha Dukkha or the sorrow and the joy of the world is Anitya, it's impermanent. What is Nitya is Dharma. Dhatu, this body, this gross body is Anitya. Jiva is Nitya. Your individuality is there, permanent. So pursue that which is good for your individuality, where it is ultimately going to merge itself into the ocean of the self. I know that we have not done full justice to the topic, but that this is meant to be just a glimpse of what is the message of Mahabharata. As I said, not one parva, one shloka like that, and we have 1 lakh shlokas. It is not enough in a lifetime to understand what it is. From the sadhana point of view, I would say, as we have been saying every year, get to the basics of it. Development of intellect is important. So Swamiji's books of The Fall of the Human Intellect, Holocaust of Attachment, Governing Business Relationship and Vedanta Treatise, these 4 should form a base where you will have enough developed intellect. Then you will also know how to approach the epics. Because now people are very enamored, but they do not know which book even to read. There are books, thousands of books on Ramayana and Mahabharata. There are, somebody writes Draupadi from the point of view of feminist point of view, and they'll impose all their views on Draupadi. Whether Draupadi was like that or not. So we also need to discern and understand which book to read, for which a basic level of intellect must be there. So this is very important. And as I said, then you can read the Ramayana and Mahabharata of Rajagopalacharya. That we have read, so I am saying it could be any other book. With this as the base, we need to look forward to go in life and ultimately finish the journey, which is the aim of life, to surrender and to get into the state of self-realization. Oh, Paramashiva.
Poornam Adah, Poornamidam, Poornat Poornamudachyate, Poornasya Poornamadaya Poornamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.